The IPL mega auctions are upon us, and a lot of you have been asking us to do some analytical videos or some interesting videos as to who could be the players that go for big money. So we'll try and divide those videos. The first one that we're doing today is we're taking a look at value for money players. Now, most of the time, value for money players are the ones you realize at the end of the season, because these are the players you paid very less money for, but their performance has been outstanding. But what we've tried to do here is preempt certain players who we think may not go for a lot of amount in the auction, but I think teams should look at them seriously. They are a bit under the radar, but if you get them at a good deal, as in not too expensive, they could turn out to be value for money players. Now, we're not talking about players that have low base price, let's say like a Shah Rukh Khan who's low base price, but we know everyone will be going for him, so he'll fetch a lot of money. Not those players, not even those players that are high base price and a lot of teams will know about them, like the Quinton de Kooks of the world, R. Ashwin of the world. Not those kind of players. We are talking about players that maybe we think teams are not thinking about seriously, yet if you get them at a low price, they could become very, very useful, and we'll give you reasons for that. So we've got value for money players, we think, because they are a bit under the radar. First one we've picked is Rahul Tripathi. He played for KKR. The reason I've picked him is because if you remember in the UAE leg of the last season's IPL, where we saw most of the openers dominate, very few middle order batsmen were doing very well. Rahul Tripathi stood out there. Not only was he in the top 10 run getters in the UAE leg, again a list dominated by top order batsmen, he was one of only two middle order batsmen, anyone batting below number 3, that could make the top 10 run list in the UAE leg of the IPL. The only other batsman who made it into the top 10 list was Glenn Maxwell. He was ahead of Rahul Tripathi. The other interesting bit that goes in Rahul Tripathi's favour, even though the conditions weren't conducive for middle order batsmen in UAE, he yet got a great strike rate. Again, in the top 10 strike rate, he made it to the top 10 list. In fact, he was ahead of Glenn Maxwell in that particular list. For any middle order batsman, only two middle order batsmen made it there: Glenn Maxwell, Rahul Tripathi. So that's elite company. Rest of the top strike rate came from top order batsmen. So it tells you that even in that position, you have to put context to the data. That is why we think Rahul Tripathi, not a lot of team may be bidding for him or would be ready to pay a lot of money. If you get him at a decent price, I think teams should take him. I think 40 lakh is his base price. If you get him within a crore or a little more than that, may not be a bad buy. The next one we've picked is Rassie Dussen. Now, Indian fans would be aware of him in the series versus India. He was not out. He remained unbeaten in all the 3 ODIs that he played, was the second highest run scorer, only behind Quinton de Kock, and his series strike rate was a staggering 218. So he's already told you that he's the man in form in white ball cricket, and the way he tackled the Indian spinners tells you that if the IPL was to happen in Indian conditions or even in the Middle East spin friendly condition, he's the man to watch out for. We think not too many people will be bullish on him, but he's the guy that you should look at having in your team. Also, we saw during the T20 World Cup, he was South Africa's highest run getter. So Rassie Dussen, someone that you should look at. The next one we've picked is Charith Asalanka. Now he's 24 years of age. He made his debut in all 3 formats in 2021. He was the 5th highest run getter at the T20 World Cup, but his strike rate of 147, that really stands out. He was also the player of the series in that series before the T20 World Cup, the ODI series in South Africa that took place. This batsman was the player of the series. If I remember, in the T20 World Cup, his 80 odd that he got under pressure at that time, Sri Lanka was 79 for 4, chasing a big total of 172. At that time, Charith Asalanka got you 80. So you know he's a guy who can hit big hits and also get you runs under pressure at a phenomenal strike rate of 147. So he's a guy I don't think is really being spoken about at the moment. So could come at a decent price. So I think teams can bid for him. 50 lakh is his base price. Robin Powell, now again a man from the West Indies, recently in the news for smashing 100 in a T20I versus England, helped West Indies win that game. In that particular knock, 2 things that really stood out. His strike rate was over 200, and not only that, if you take a look at the number of boundaries, he hit 10 sixes in that knock, and I saw some of those shots, incredible. Like, he's got brute power. It's not just sometime you're just got 10 sixes, but the manner in which he was hitting, to the areas of the ground that he was hitting, he seems like a special batsman. Indian fans will get to see him in that T20I series versus India. He's not part of the West Indian ODI team, but part of the T20 team, so I'm sure IPL teams will have an eye out on him, so he could still be under the radar. Is another man that you can look at. The other one we've picked is Najibullah Zadran from Afghanistan, 28-year-old lefty batsman. You also know that he's the vice captain of the Afghanistan team. Indian fans would remember him in that match against New Zealand, which India were hoping Afghanistan beat New Zealand 124 if they got. It was all down to Najibullah Zadran, 73 that he got of just 43 deliveries. So played an outstanding knock, so you would be a little bit familiar with him. I'm just quoting someone after an innings, not just in the T20 World Cup where he was very, very good. He got an average of 34, 135 strike rate, great numbers that I can see. A lefty always comes in very handy. But in the Abu Dhabi T10 tournament, he was playing there, start there as well. Virender Sehwag said this of him, and I'm quoting, he's saying, I have seen him in the T10 league. He can handle spin and pace with equal ease, and I think an IPL contract is not far away. That is what he spoke about, Najibullah Zadran. So keeping all that in mind, I think these are the players that not too many people are talking about. You're talking about the marquee players, the top buys. You're also talking about some big stars that are valued really low but will go for a lot of money. All teams have their eyes on them. But I think these are 5 players that are a bit under the radar. So you can get them at a decent price. But I think the value that they will give you based on the skills that they have will be very, very good for any IPL franchise. So these were the top 5 value for money buys.